for taking the time to join PSI Georgia, or Postpartum Support International, the Georgia chapter, for our Facebook Live programming. My name is Chantrice Jones, and I am the Vice President for PSI Georgia. Tonight, we will be discussing how to thrive, not just survive, the holiday season. Before I get into the programming, let me point out that today is my sister's birthday, and we're actually celebrating her birthday this evening. So I'm recording my program tonight to post for you when we normally have our Facebook Live. And so I did want to point out and say happy birthday, Shanice. I love you so much. Now, in alignment with our mission to promote maternal mental health, we'd like to take some time to encourage you in thriving this holiday season, not just surviving. This topic is important because there are so many people who struggle through the holiday season, either because the culture of the season is just completely overwhelming, or for being sad for the loss of a loved one. Whatever your reason, please know that you are not alone and you don't have to struggle alone. So tonight I will share a few tips for how to alleviate stress and anxiety during the holiday season, thinking about some self-care tips that you can take, particularly during a time where you don't get a lot of time by yourself. And also thinking about how to set healthy boundaries for yourself and for the ones around you. Alleviating stress and anxiety is a key first step for thriving this holiday season. One way that you can reduce stress is by pre-planning and preparing some things ahead of time. Where possible, it may be helpful to prep for parts of your meal, for example, and freeze them up until the time that you need them. Like, for example, chopping vegetables or cleaning your meat and freezing it. Finding a place in your home or a designated box to collect the things that you need for the holidays in one place so that you can have everything you need when you're ready to set up for guests, or having the items you need in a handy place, for when you're taking things over to visit with for the holidays. It's important to find reasons to celebrate, even when you don't want to or you find it difficult to, because this time is particularly hard for you. Getting in the holiday spirit can be helpful in reducing stress and anxiety, actually. So you may want to think about maybe honoring a family tradition in some way, either doing something that you did as a child and bringing it to your current family, or just finding ways to reinvent or just do traditions that you hold near and dear to your heart. You may even want to think about, to get in the holiday spirit, maybe driving around and looking at Christmas lights and hearing caroling, either by yourself, which is perfectly okay to do as well, to get yourself in the holiday spirit. Taking some time to really reflect and observe what the holiday season means to you and why it's important to you is a good way to get in the holiday spirit. Maybe thinking about some memories that you hold near and dear to your heart, or thinking about why the season is important. What's the reason for the season for you? And whatever that reason is, reflecting on that can help with alleviating stress and anxiety and really putting things into perspective for you. Giving to others in need or demonstrating acts of kindness can be helpful, actually, in reducing stress and putting you in the holiday spirit. So we've come up with a couple of tips for different ways that you can be kind and do something kind for someone else. So one example that a lot of people are aware of is paying for someone's coffee, and paying for the person behind you. And we've heard stories of that just being passed on for hours, the next person's coffee being paid for. And it really it brings joy to people's mind that day. It's an act of kindness, and you appreciate it when you are the recipient, right? And also another example is letting someone go in front of you in a grocery store. Think about making cookies for your mailman or the person who takes your garbage. That's another random act of kindness. Also, volunteering to serve meals for your local homeless shelter is a lovely way to be of service and demonstrate kindness this holiday season. Have you seen a copy of the Random Acts of Kindness Advent Calendar that have been floating around on social media? So there's a lot of tips and ways that you can count down to Christmas with random acts of kindness. Now, granted, and here I actually have an example or a copy I pulled from online, and I obviously don't expect you to read it, but it's just an example. Granted, please take a day or two or three or whatever, do what works for you, right? If the whole calendar is stressing you out, we're not adding more anxiety, right? The idea is to think of ways that you can be kind to others, and to help you kind of reducing stress and getting outside of your head, for example. So make sure you do what works best for you. If that means just picking one and a random act of kindness, and do that. So the concept of self-care can be particularly difficult any time of year, right? Not just during the holiday season. So it can be even more difficult during the holiday season. But we want you to remember that self-care is not selfish, first and foremost, by any means, right? You have to invest in your emotional well-being. And, keep in mind that this should be your priority. So make sure you do things that can help you in maintaining that mental well-being. So take the time to do what you want to do ultimately. And if that means not going to the Christmas dinner, if that's not really what you need for your mental well-being, then hey, that's what has to happen this year, right? And keep this in mind, especially if you are always in the habit of taking care of others. Now would be a good time for you to invest and give to yourself and put yourself first. It doesn't have to be extravagant. Like, you could take yourself to the movies, or enjoy a quiet hour alone in the park, or sitting on a bench, people watching, or maybe even just sitting on the couch and drinking your favorite holiday beverage and listening to music. And so just whatever it is, make sure you find some time, carve out time for yourself. That's really, really key. For those of you who have experienced a loss of a loved one, this time of year can be particularly difficult. So first, we want to encourage you to allow yourself time to grieve without apologizing. No matter how long ago your loss occurred, whether it was this year or it was 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. It's perfectly fine for you to give yourself that time you need to grieve for your loss, for however long you need. So be sure to build in that time to take care of yourself. And that also means embracing the sadness and the loss rather than ignoring it. And so when that time hits you, and a memory hits you and you get sad, embrace it, live in that memory, because that's important for you and for your mental health. Also understand and acknowledge that things are different. They will be different, and that's okay. It's a part of your story. And so by acknowledging it, that can help you be okay and appreciate where you are at this point in your life. Make sure you spend time with those who will support you and understand what you need during this time. And so, surrounding yourself with people that understand that you're still grieving and that support you in that, that can encourage you through those times whenever they hit you. And also, please don't forget to seek the help of a counselor or therapist if you need to. Again, we don't want you to struggle alone. So when it comes to self-care, remember it is important to know your triggers. If you're an introvert, for example, and you know that celebrating the upcoming holiday season means you have to be in the same room with 35 loud family members, take the time, steal it away, and go spend some time by yourself. Get you some me time. Be sure to plan for it. You may know every year around this time, it becomes overwhelming. So just plan to sneak out and sneak back in when you're ready. And I love the idea of setting up a cue word or some type of catchphrase with your significant other or whoever accompanies you to the event that you're going to when you're feeling uncomfortable or you're ready to leave. That's a really good way to kind of acknowledge that you know your triggers and that you have a plan for how to exit when you're uncomfortable. We also want to remind you that you have to realize that comparison is a thief of joy. And you've also may have heard that perfect is the enemy of good. So, when you think about comparing yourself to other people's situations or what they may post on social media, we want to encourage you not to do that. So if you love social media, like a lot of us do, like Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook, as we're looking at tonight, well, remember that in a lot of cases, what's posted is not actually reality, right? And so please don't compare you or your family or your life situation to what you're seeing online. We also want to encourage you that sometimes what you make out in your mind is trying to live up to this unrealistic standard. So it's just not fair to you or your loved one. So we want to encourage you not to do that, right? And this next step definitely applies to me. If you aren't Martha Stewart in the kitchen, please know that that is totally okay, especially if you are comparing, what you cook to what's on Pinterest and they don't correctly line up. That's okay. Well, again, comparison is a thief of joy, right? So just thinking about the dish, whether it looks the way it looks on Pinterest is not what matters most, as long as it's edible. Just want to focus on the fact that maybe if you have this one dish that's your dish, then do that one dish and not try to, be extravagant or go outside the box if that's not really what your mental space can handle this holiday season. Or, if you don't have that one dish, go to a restaurant, pick up a platter and take it to wherever you're going or have it at your home. What's most important and what's key is that you are present and that you're showing up your best self. So please do what matters to you and what will help you. And also for those of you that have kids, and as you may have heard, this one applies to me as well. When you have a toddler, please remember that it's okay to let your kids be kids. Whatever that means to you, right? So they don't always have to be perfect, especially at family functions, they don't. So manage your stress by managing your expectations of others, and especially of your kids, okay? And for that matter, understand that you can't control what other people say or do. Don't try to change, your grandfather for what he says at the family dinner, or don't try to appease your brother's new girlfriend. Do what's best for you and in your mental health. And then when it comes to the kids, sometimes no matter how long you've cooked and slaved over a dish, they may not want to eat it. They may only want the roll or the dessert. And sometimes you just got to say, okay, so don't allow yourself to get stressed out unnecessarily. And also we want to encourage you to be flexible and try not to take things personally. If you can't change it, try to find the humor in it. And this is a really good point, wherever you can, if it's something that's outside of your control, either find the humor in it or ignore it. And, I wanted to point out that the Serenity Prayer can be helpful here. So either print a copy of it and save it to your phone so you can have it as a reminder. Now, have you tried setting healthy boundaries for yourself before? It can be difficult, but small steps toward your goals can be very helpful. So as you may have heard before, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So remember, it is okay to set healthy boundaries with those around you and for yourself. So first things first, we want to encourage you to take responsibility for your own happiness. Do not put the keys to your happiness in the hands of someone else. You and only you are in charge of you and your happiness. So please keep that first and foremost in your mind. Also, you set the standard for how others treat you. You have every right to tell someone, I am not for talking to in that manner, or I am not for treating that way. And then you can either separate yourself from that person or be okay with ignoring what doesn't work for you. Another thing we want to encourage you to do is learn to say no without feeling guilty. Excuse me. If you hosted a get-together last year, it's perfectly fine to allow someone else to do it this year. Or it's fine if you don't attend everything you are invited to. When it comes to holiday parties at your children's school, for example, consider buying treats for your child's class party instead of making them yourself. Or, find another child's mom or parent to share the load and the responsibility for providing for that holiday party. At the end of the day, the kids really don't care. They just want a nice treat there. So don't add any extra stress to yourself than you need to. Also, when it comes to budgeting, create a budget and stick to it. And don't allow yourself to feel bad or guilty about the decision that you make for yourself. We really want to encourage you in that. That also can help with your mental health and well-being during this holiday season. So when it comes to healthy eating during the holiday season, remember you have to do what's best for you. If sugar and caffeine increases your anxiety and stresses you out, try your best to limit them. Also, try not to overeat. If you are only going to feel bad about it, and it's important not to do that, and try to limit overeating as much as possible. Instead of having that second plate of dinner, or maybe that second or third dessert, maybe you want to try, setting your boundaries. So I'm going to have my meal and my dessert because that's what you should do. You should enjoy it. But instead of going back for seconds, why don't you try, creating an alternative? So maybe you'll go for a walk, or you'll play a game with the kids. And if you still feel like you want that second helping to dinner, or you still feel like you want that additional dessert, go back and have it after you've done whatever your activity was that you said you were going to do. But only have half of what you would have given yourself beforehand. So that can help with kind of tricking yourself, definitely, and helping you create healthy boundaries for yourself. So I've shared a lot of tips tonight for ways that we hope you can thrive this holiday season and not just survive. So please join the discussion below and post a tip that you plan to use, or share a tip maybe that we weren't able to mention here. Additionally, we'll be posting a few articles in the comment section that you may find helpful in reviewing, such as some easy breathing techniques to help you in de-stressing. And also maybe listening to calming music is also helpful in de-stressing. And so we have a couple of links we want to share with you. Whatever you decide to do, we hope that you put yourself first. We're wishing you a joyous and unstressful holiday season. Thank you.